Alright, it's time to continue this list. This is simply my top 10 best movies of the 90s. Number 10. Home Alone. There was a time when Macaulay Culkin ruled the entire film world, and he was only a kid. The first role I ever remember seeing him in was in Uncle Buck. Who would have thought that he would be a leading actor after that point? The movie is about a young boy who is left home alone by accident when his family leaves for vacation to Paris. The family then tries to get back to their home in Chicago to get him. However, while they're gone, Kevin has to prevent a couple of burglars from robbing the house. The film is like a live-action Tom and Jerry cartoon with all the booby traps and the rather violent humor. This is not even close to being the least bit realistic, but that's what makes it all the more fun. It's classic slapstick humor similar to the Three Stooges, just brought into modern times. Also, I love the film's main cast, especially Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern as the burglars, and Macaulay Culkin as the boy stopping them. Culkin has unbelievably great chemistry with Pesci and Stern, and I give a lot of credit to Pesci and Stern because there aren't a lot of veteran actors that will play supporting roles with a rookie kid as the star. And rumor has it that Pesci wasn't particularly happy about it at first, but clearly he got over it because he appeared in the sequel. So with Home Alone, it's classic slapstick humor at its finest. Number 9. The Addams Family. Not many television franchises have transitioned well into film, and for good reason. The biggest reason being that it's tough writing a near 2-hour movie based on a show that told all of its stories in 30 minutes. However, The Addams Family is the biggest exception. In fact, The Addams Family is still my favorite adaptation in that category. Critics put down the film upon release, saying that it was nothing but lame one-liners and sick humor, but that kind of captures what the show was. One of the recurring gags of the show were the constant sick one-liners that no other human being would say, and things that other people found offensive, like blood and toilet humor, were perfectly acceptable to the Addams Family, and that's why the show was such a huge hit, because it did humor that no other show found acceptable. The film, in my opinion, captured every bit of that and more. Also, the cast was perfect. Raul Julia, Angelica Houston, Christopher Lloyd, Christina Ricci, and Jimmy Workman made the perfect Addams Family. Literally, the casting director for this film deserved an Oscar. So not only is this, in my opinion, the best adaptation for a TV show that I've ever seen, but I think it deserves to go down as one of the best films ever made. Number 8. Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. After seeing this film, I think everyone knew that Jim Carrey was going to be a big star. Ace Ventura might not have had the most powerful story in the world, but that really wasn't the point of the film. The whole point of the film was the comedy itself, and Ace Ventura definitely gets an A+ for that. Jim Carrey, who was still establishing himself in the world of entertainment with his recurring role in In Living Color, was given the chance to shine in his first movie, and he more than exceeds expectations. The story about a pet detective who must find a stolen dolphin who is the mascot for the Miami Dolphins. It sounds like an outrageous plot, but there is no plot too outrageous for Jim Carrey. He is unbelievably funny and makes the story work. I think the funniest part about it, from a critic's standpoint, was how serious critics were towards the movie. They completely dismissed Jim Carrey because they thought his performance was too over the top. It's amazing how more accepting of his over-the-top performances they got from that point on. So overall, Ace Ventura is a comedy classic that has earned respect. Number 7. The Matrix. There are always those films that redefine how a film is made and inspire a whole line of films after it, and The Matrix is definitely one of those films, and for many reasons. The Matrix not only created a very original story, but turned the special effects world upside down with effects that had yet to be seen up to that point. The story is about a man named Neo who is taken out of the world that he thought was real and is taken into the real world, a world that has all but been destroyed by a war between humans and machines. The world that Neo thought was real was actually a simulation known as the Matrix. I'm not gonna lie, the story is completely confusing and really takes multiple watches to understand. However, at least you can make sense out of this story after a while, unlike its even less coherent sequels. I first saw The Matrix when it released on VHS over 13 years ago. It was one of those movies that just made me say, wow, after watching it. And it's also one of those films that just got better and better every time I watched it as I got older, because as I got older, I began respecting the work that went into it more and more. The Wachowski brothers did a really great job with this film. Also, the cast was very well picked. While I don't necessarily care much for Keanu Reeves, I liked his performance very much in The Matrix. So overall, The Matrix is a great film that inspired so many films in its wake. Number 6. Saving Private Ryan. Best World War II film, period. This is one of my favorite Steven Spielberg films. Most World War II films up to that point have been fairly unrealistic. While most of them were actually really good, I never felt like the films were real. They always felt like just movies to me. Saving Private Ryan takes a far more realistic look at it and makes you feel like you're in the real war and not just watching a movie about it. The story is about a squad that goes looking for a private first-class soldier named Francis Ryan, whose brothers have been killed in the war, and they are looking for him so they can take him back to his family. Spielberg did a great job of making everything look as real as possible in this film. The very beginning of the film is just horrifying to watch because that was the scene that really told everybody in theater how far this film would go to be authentic. Also, Tom Hanks' performance was just spectacular in this flick, and he really drove the film. There's really not much more to say other than what I said at the beginning of the summary. Best World War II film, period. Number 5. Terminator 2. The first Terminator was one of those cult films that wasn't necessarily huge when it first came out, but gained recognition years after. Terminator was a dark and rather violent movie and gained a big following after its initial release. The buzz got so big that a sequel finally went into production and James Cameron returned to write and direct it. The sequel, however, took a much different tone. It was still dark and violent in areas, but more comedy was thrown in. This change made Terminator 2 the perfect sequel, and in a lot of ways made it better than the original. The story sees the Terminator return, but this time he's come back to protect John Connor from an evil robot, the T-1000. James Cameron has pretty much already cemented himself as one of the greatest directors of all time, and Terminator 2 proves why. He wrote a script that was not only science fiction, but actually wrote it so well that you could actually believe that it could happen. Cameron also did a better job with the Terminator character. In the original, the Terminator just felt like a robot. There was no personality to the character at all. Cameron goes more in depth with the character and makes the character more than just a robot character. Arnold Schwarzenegger is just really enjoyable as the character of the Terminator. He is quite literally the only person who could have pulled off that role the way he did. Number 4. Toy Story. I've pretty much said everything I could on Toy Story in my Toy Story franchise review. Toy Story was just a great leap in film. Pixar really delivered perfectly in the very first feature-length CGI film. The movie hit all of the right notes in story, tone, acting, and characters that it felt like the perfect film. Pixar still remains my favorite of the two major animated film companies, with DreamWorks being the second. Pixar just knows how to make these films. They know how to tell a story, and they know how to develop great characters. Toy Story was the start of it all and still remains one of the best. Number 3. Jurassic Park. I don't think anyone else other than Steven Spielberg could have brought this film to life. Based on the novel by Michael Crichton, who also co-wrote the screenplay for the film, Jurassic Park is yet another perfect book adaptation by Spielberg. Jurassic Park follows the book almost perfectly. Granted, a few elements are taken out, but that's expected with book adaptations. The film is just entertaining from start to finish about a group of scientists who are brought to a yet-to-be-opened amusement park that actually has live dinosaurs. However, things go terribly wrong as an employee of the park sabotages the whole thing, and the most dangerous dinosaurs are set loose. In 1994, it didn't seem possible that a film like this could be made. Effects like this had never been seen up to that point in time. ILM devised effects that not only looked good back then, but still look great today. The dinosaurs look simply awesome in this film, and the fully animatronic T-Rex is my favorite. The fact that they made an animatronic dinosaur that big speaks greatly to the crew that worked on that film. Not only that, but the film had a great cast. Sam Neill, Laura Dern, Jeff Goldblum, just this great, well-rounded cast that have tremendous chemistry with each other and helped make the science fiction film as real as they possibly could. Jurassic Park has been criticized for its lack of plot, but I really don't see where they're coming from. It has a plot: escape the damn park. What other plot do they need? So with Jurassic Park, it's just another classic to come from Steven Spielberg. Number 2. Face Off. On paper, Face Off has one of those plots that you wouldn't think would work. John Woo was known for rather elaborate plots, but this was on another level. It was about an FBI agent, Sean Archer, who seeks revenge on the man who killed his son and is a massive terrorist, Castor Troy. After finally stopping him and nearly killing him, he finds out that he's planted a bomb somewhere in the city and must find it. The only way to do it is to switch faces and go undercover as Castor Troy. However, Castor soon wakes up and uses Sean Archer's face. It sounds weird, but John Woo was very good on bringing it to the big screen. However, the two men who should be given the most credit is John Travolta and Nicolas Cage. They both had to play both roles and had to memorize each other's performances to pull it off without an error, and they did a fantastic job. They actually made you feel like they actually switched faces, which shows how great they really are as actors. The action is also phenomenal. It's so well done and stylized that it never gets old. It's so good that even though you can blatantly see stunt doubles in most of it, it doesn't matter. It still kicks ass regardless. So overall, Face Off is my absolute favorite from John Woo. I'm not the biggest fan of John Woo's work, but this is one film from him that I thoroughly enjoy. And number 1, Forrest Gump. Forrest Gump is perfect in all categories, and it's my absolute favorite film. The original novel was not exactly the most popular novel on the market in the time that the movie was being made. Even to this day, I haven't run into many people that have actually read it or even know that it exists. In fact, the really interesting part about it is that if you go onto Wikipedia, just typing in Forrest Gump into the search engine, it will lead you to the movie page and not the novel. I don't think I've ever seen that happen for any other book adaptation. Usually the title leads you to the book and you have to search for the movie separately. I love Forrest Gump immensely. It's such a well-made film. One of the main things that I like about it is that even though the story goes through some of America's most depressing but historical times in the 60s and 70s, it's such an innocent story with a very innocent main character named Forrest Gump, who happens not to be overly bright. The story is just about him telling his life story to a group of people at a bus stop. Then after that, he marries the woman that he's been in love with for all his life, whom he unknowingly has a son with. Throughout the film, we see him encounter various historical moments in the U.S. Forrest Gump is so well told and well acted. Tom Hanks truly deserved that Oscar. He played Forrest Gump perfectly, and the chemistry between him and Robin Wright is amazing. One of the things I really credit Robert Zemeckis and screenplay writer Eric Roth for is making the story as subtly as they did. The film made characters that were believable and had their own personalities, and Forrest Gump is honestly one of my favorite characters in film. Forrest Gump is a character that might not seem bright upon first meeting him, but as the movie goes on, you really see how smart he truly is. Forrest Gump's intelligence is not told through his speech, but through his actions and his decisions throughout the film. Also, Forrest Gump's ending still gets me to this day. The final scene with Forrest and Jenny, with Forrest and her talking in the bedroom, is such a well set up scene. Over the years, one main question that has been asked is about the relationship between Forrest and Jenny, and that question is, did Jenny truly love Forrest from a relationship standpoint, or was it still just friends? And I know this summary has gone on long, but let me just give you my quick view of it. I always viewed Jenny as the character who knew that she loved Forrest but never thought that she was the one for him and felt that she wasn't good enough. The character of Jenny in the movie is a character who was not entirely innocent. She had made mistakes in her life and paid for them dearly in a lot of ways. Forrest, on the other hand, was a completely innocent character, someone who always tried to do the right thing even if he didn't quite know what the right thing was. I always felt that it was that innocence that kept Jenny away because she didn't want to take that innocence away from Forrest. But in the end, she realized that if there was anyone who could save her from her own problems, it was Forrest, and no matter how hard she tried to fight it, she realized that she was destined to be with Forrest Gump from the very beginning. But that's Forrest Gump. It's the best story ever told in film, and it is a film that deserved every award it got. And that's my top 10 best movies of the 90s. I know I said I would have my worst list too this week, but unfortunately I've run into a lot of constraints over the last couple weeks, and I've had a lot of problems going on. But I still wanted to get a video out for you guys, which is why I did the best list this week. But I should be back on schedule next week, so I'll have my top 10 worst movies of the 90s next week. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I will see you next time.